AARP. Okay, continue. Okay, welcome everyone. I am Lil Keys from Woodbridge, Virginia, and I am a volunteer community ambassador and member of the Executive Council with AARP Virginia. I want to welcome everyone today to our Downsizing and Decluttering webinar this afternoon. So thank you so much for joining us. The Global Council on Brain Health recommends declutter your life in their recent report on mental well-being. And a recent survey found that the number one reason that people that impedes people from going out of their home and from getting health care into their home is that they have too much stuff. So we applaud you for deciding to spend time with us today to learn about and to share decluttering tips. We want to help us all gain a general understanding of why stuff is so important to some people and to learn practical, easy to follow downsizing declutter tips. In the reminder email for today's session, we included a link to download the slide presentation. And in the follow-up email that you'll receive after the program, we include many of the resources plus more. And now on with the program. My co-host today is Nancy Crespo of Manassas. Nancy's going to help keep an eye on the chat box and on the question and answer section. Okay, so if any of you have any questions or any comments, concerns, please write them in the chat box. We're glad to share with everyone. This afternoon, we are thrilled to be joined by Dr. Mary K. Clark. Like me and Nancy, Mary is an AARP volunteer community ambassador, and we're very fortunate to have her on our team. When she is not volunteering with AARP, Mary is Assistant Dean for Student Affairs for Eugene Applebaum College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences at Wayne State University in Detroit. She holds a PhD from the University of Toledo in Higher Education Administration and is a licensed professional counselor in Michigan. In her free time, she is also a writer, a painter, and an amateur genealogist. Mary voluntarily conducts downsizing and decluttering webinars on behalf of AARP. Hopefully, the information we cover and the resources we share will help you make informed decisions to downsize and declutter your belongings. So with that, please give a warm welcome, Zoom welcome to Dr. Mary K. Clark.
Thank you so much, Lil. And hello, everyone. As Lil said, my name is Dr. Mary Clark, and I am a volunteer with AARP. I look forward to facilitating today's conversation on downsizing and decluttering. Now, we all know this familiar icon, King Tut. We will have a little bit more to say about him a little later. So today, we have a couple of key goals for our session. We want to help all of us gain general understanding of why stuff is so important to some people and to learn practical and easy to follow downsizing and
Mary, you went on mute.
Oh, so the gremlins are working and they're working overtime. So my apologies for that. We hope to have a little fun today, starting with the technology gremlins, and we may share a few laughs with you. So before we begin, we have a few ground rules. So one is we like to share the floor. So we will be using the chat function many times throughout this presentation to share the floor and get your ideas on things. And also remember to keep your microphone mute unless you're asking a question. And this is a judgment-free zone, so anything that you put in chat, we welcome that contributes to the conversation on downsizing and decluttering. So 2011 marked the beginning of a large age wave. Over 10,000 people turning 65 every day in the US for the next 20 years. And I'm one of them, actually. I turned 65 in August. 50% of Americans will be over 65 right now. And in 40 years, that will be 33% of America will be over 65. And this will be the largest, most powerful buying group in America. This may also be the last time that we have 4 generations still alive at the same time. And for older Americans, the age gap between their parents and themselves is about 20 years. For our Generation Xers, they may be 30 to 35 years older than their kids. So the 2 oldest generations have the most stuff, and both those generations want to pass it down to the younger 2 generations. So let me ask you a question. Do you know the differences between the silent or the greatest generation and baby boomers? So this is where I want you to use that chat function and think of it. What do you think are the most significant events that symbolize the silent or the greatest generation? Put it in chat. What events happened during their lifetime that you think made the greatest impression on them? Let's see that chat activity going. Lil, do you want to let me know a little bit about what's going on in the chat?
Yes. Well, I think everyone concurs, 2 world wars and the Depression. Yikes.
That's exactly right. And those are the things that I think impacted the silent or the greatest generation in holding on to their stuff. So let's jump over to the baby boomers. What significant events do you think impacted the baby boomer generation? That's my generation. Let's see the chat function used again to share what you think would be one of the impacts of the baby boomers. And I see there's some activity going on. Lil, you want to share a little bit about what our audience is saying?
Yes, and of course, that's my generation too. So I concur, Vietnam War, rock and roll, the Beatles, Woodstock, washing machines. That's a good one. Of course, Vietnam War, Cold War. So this, I remember all this well. Yes, and parents, many of our, our parents, just became parents. So anyhow, very, very good. A lot of things, I remember these civil rights movement.
Great interaction. Thank you so much.
Oh, forget women's movement too.
Yes. So all of those defining moments made an impact on all of us. So let me ask you one other question. Going back to the silent or the greatest generation, what did underage silent or greatest generation people lie about their age to do? Put that in chat. It was a little white lie. It was something that they did. So what would they lie about their age in order to do? And what do we see in the chat? I see some activity.
Well, I joined the military. I know my father did this. And so yes, get married, go to war by lying about their age. drink, go in the military, enlist
Okay,
for World War II, going to clubs.
okay. So let's jump from the silent generation over to the Gen X and the millennials and answer this question. What did the Gen X or millennials lie about their age to do? We might see some totally different responses. Let's put that in the chat. And what do we have, Lil?
Drink and go to clubs, smoke.
Oh,
Get tattoos.
so as we can see, between the two generations, between the silent generation and the millennials, there were some differences about why we would represent ourselves. I know my grandfather and me, my grandfather being born in 1900 and me being born in 1956, we probably have some differing opinions about what we would lie about as well, our age for. So thank you so much for sharing those things with me. So what does all that matter? Well, it matters because we'll have the largest group ever needing health care. And the two generations that attach pride to their possessions, and we're facing the shortage of affordable housing, healthcare costs are rising, and all of that collides into the number one thing that impedes people from leaving their home or getting healthcare into their home is their stuff. That stuff. And that stuff is usually because of what we have experienced in our past. So Good Run Research interviewed 1,000 caretakers, and the thing that caused the most stress was the stuff. It was the stuff we worked so hard for all of our life. And the cold, hard reality is the kids, the grandkids, they don't want your stuff. They don't want it. So the problem is no one wants your stuff. No one wants it. So what are we going to do about it? And that's where these downsizing and decluttering tips, we hope, will be helpful to you. And I also know that amongst this audience, many of you have ideas. So at the conclusion of this presentation, we'll ask you to share some of your downsizing and decluttering tips as well in the chat so that others can perhaps benefit from things that you have done. So now let's look at top 10 tips of how you can get rid of our stuff. Tip number 1, first of all, you want to include everyone in this process. You didn't accumulate the stuff by yourself, and you're certainly not going to get rid of it all alone. So include the spouses and the grandkids and the kids and the neighbors, everybody, include them. So in the chat, I want you to respond. How many years have you been in your own home? Put in the chat, have you been in your own home 5 years? Have you been in your house 10 years? And you can raise your hand too. You can use your reaction button, or you can just put it in the chat, how many years you've lived in your home. 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, how many years have you been in your house? And Lil, if you just want to share some of what our participants are saying in the chat, I see that activity.
Many years, mucho years. And there's so many people like me that we lived in a house for 30 years and then we've moved. So there's people that have 39 years, ranging 40. I mean, that's a long time. 31 years and 40 previously to this. We range from 2 to 47. Let me see, I think that's the highest number. It's a whole lifetime there. Yes, from 2 to 30, less than 5, I see here. But So quite a bit. The majority of the people have lived in their home over 20 years.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
So as you can see, some of you have only lived in your house maybe less than 5 years on up to 40 plus years. And you know, you cannot declutter and downsize by yourself in a weekend. So we need to get this task done, but even if you prefer to do it yourself, it's important that you include everybody in the house or everybody in your village to make this task manageable. And it's important not to exclude spouses or children just because you think they won't want to help. Give everybody, including the grandkids, the neighbors, anybody who wants to, a chance to help out. So helpful tip number 2, do a 10-minute sweep. And this is the best way to clean a room instead of looking at the whole room and being totally overwhelmed, like this picture in this slide. I mean, that's overwhelming. So what you want to do is maybe take a small 2-foot by 2-foot area and work on that. So I compare kind of doing this 10-minute sweep to trying to lose 50 pounds in a week. It's not going to happen, but I can perhaps lose a pound a week if I work on it a little at a time. And so that's what you want to do here. So if everybody in the family takes a 2-foot by 2-foot area and cleans for 10 minutes, not more than 10 minutes, not less than 10 minutes, but just 10 minutes. Try to do this maybe 10 minutes before dinner or 10 minutes before your favorite show comes on in the evening, and try to stay consistent, maybe for 5 days a week. And every week, if you do this, you'll see that your home will start to become a little cleaner every few weeks. Now that's only if you don't go out and try to fill up that space that you just cleaned out. So helpful tip number 3, unpack bags, whether it be laundry bags from the dry cleaners, whether it be bags from a vacation, whether it be grocery bags. Unpack those bags when you come home. So what is the proper way to unpack a bag? Put in the chat, when do you unpack your bags when you go on vacation? Let me see if you unpack it immediately or if you like to wait.
It
What do
looks
you
like
see
we
there?
have some good people here. They do it as soon as they get home, immediately or within a couple of days. No more than that.
Oh, and that's great. That's usually a good way to do it and keep things moving, because many times if you don't put the stuff away, it will just sit there. And the same thing for groceries, put them away immediately, because you don't want them to just sit around and contribute to you feeling overwhelmed by a little bit more clutter. So I agree with those of you who said, always unpack your bags immediately. Tip number 4, every item has a home. So don't let stuff you bring into the house just stack up. Put everything where it's supposed to go. Groceries go in the kitchen, tools go in the garage, clothes go in the closet, which brings us to another rule. Equal in equals equal out, which means every time you bring something into the house, take an equal item out, whether that's donated, whether it's discarded, whether it's recycled. Because just because an item is on sale, it doesn't mean that your home gets bigger to accommodate that item. Helpful tip number 5, 4-pile sort. And I'm sure you've heard of this before. There's a keep pile, there's a sell pile, there's a donate pile, and there's a trash pile. So what does this mean? When you sort your items and you break them into these 4 piles, It's important to keep the sell and the donate pile close to you and put that keep pile across the room. And why is that? Because you'll be amazed at how much you'll donate and sell rather than keep if you have to get up and keep walking over to that keep pile. So just another way to encourage yourself to get rid of things, and the things that you keep, you really want to be intentional and make the determination that I really need to keep this. Tip number 6, distribute legacy items now. Well, distributing legacy items now means you no longer tell loved ones that you'll give them something when you're gone. And sometimes we hear people say they want to wait to give something away to their children when they pass. And the reality is you should give it to them now, because giving it to them now will allow you to enjoy seeing them use the item, and it empties your house faster now. But you want to make sure that they really want what you have to give, and you really want to get rid of it now. Because if you don't, just stop saying that you'll give it away when you're gone. And don't be surprised by the results, because a lot of times when you ask people if they want an item, they may say they don't want it. Or if you ask them if they want this piano when you die, they may say, no, I don't want that piano. And then you can make the determination what you need to do with it. And what you don't want to do is push someone to take something that they really don't want. Which leads to helpful tip number 7, avoid punting. Punting is when you convince, and possibly through guilt, the next generation into taking an item that they probably don't want anyway. We often have furniture that we kept from our parents because we knew that they would be upset if we didn't take it. But we never actually wanted it, and we kept it out of obligation. Well, guess what? The next generation doesn't necessarily feel that obligation, and they may not want it. But how do you know if they do want it? Well, you just ask them. And if the person says that they don't want it, then don't say, well, you just don't know what you want yet, and then save it for them anyway. Because if they don't want it, they don't want it. And it's our job to respect that. And in that instance, you can either sell or donate the item to someone else that does want it or can use it. So avoid punting. Helpful tip number 8, donate, donate, donate. And the reality is there's always somebody else that can need it more than we do. And focus on finding a place you want to give something away versus how much is it worth. Because our nation was built on service. And this is not the time to start focusing on how much money can I get for this. It's good if you can get money for it, but sometimes it's even better, and the value is priceless if someone who really needs it gets it and they can use it. So we focus on giving to people who truly need, and places that donate for immediate use and not for resale, like a retail store. And some examples, and I've used this often, is the Dress for Success for clothes, the Souls for shoes, the Tech for Troops for electronics, and other charities, Catholic charities, and other women's shelters that provide it to those in need. And if possible, stay away from resellers. So donate, donate, donate. Tip number 9, be realistic about clothing and food. So clothing, we aren't often realistic about our items. So the picture you're looking at here is of one adult male's closet, and to the left, There are his pant sizes, waist size 28. And then moving to the right, there's a couple of size 30s. And then there's some size 32s. There's a bunch of 34s. And finally, there's 3 pair of 36s. And he admits that he can only fit into 3 pair. Well, what 3 pair do you think he can fit into? And why is he holding on to those that he can't fit into? And you know, I've been guilty of this. It's because we think that we'll get back into that size. The reality for most of us is we really won't get back into that size. And so for this man, I think it would be okay for him to get rid of some of the 28s, some of the 30s, and the 32s, and give them to somebody who can wear them now. Would you agree with me? And are any of you guilty of that? Holding on to something, thinking, I'm going to get back into that. I know I have a couple of things at home that I'm a little guilty too. So for food, it's the same way. Those dates that say it's expired, those are real dates. So why hold on to food? Well, because our parents told us, and because you all indicated earlier that the Depression was a significant point in the lives of the greatest generation, and hunger was real. And so there's a tendency to hold on to food. Here's a helpful hint. Food dating didn't start until 1984. So if there isn't a date on your food, that means it's over 35 years old. That means it's expired. Get rid of it. Another hint would be if you've moved maybe twice and you took some food with you and you open your cabinets and some of that food is still there, newsflash, it's probably expired. Get rid of it. And paper. Pare down paper and photos. We get mail, junk mail, all kinds of mail every day, old documents, bills, and photos. Oh, so we saved the conversation about paper the last. We saved the best for last, all that paper. Paper is the hardest to get rid of because it represents so much potential contacts, potential lost friendships, potential dates, potential phone numbers, potential money, memories. It's all about potential. And we naturally don't want to lose things, so we hold on to paper. Well, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm sitting in my office that has more paper than it should be legally allowed. We recommend shredding all mail if you do have a shredder, but if you don't have a shredder, here's a suggestion. Put a cardboard box in the trunk of your car for storage and sorting of mail at the source. So when you go to the mailbox and you get items that you don't need, that are not useful, rip it up right there into small pieces, put it in that box in the trunk of your car. This way, when it's full, you can drive it to one of those shredding places and take the box for shredding. Now, if you put the box on the floor inside your home, the likelihood of it getting to the shredder is a little less than if it's in the trunk of your car. So consider doing that. And for pictures are a big part of our lives. And we simply can't save all the pictures. And if you're like me from the generation that had printed out pictures, I have thousands of them. A helpful hint is if you don't know the name of all the people in the pictures that you have, why keep it? Are you just wanting pictures of strangers? So the best tip we have for this is keep about 100 pictures that you can identify the people in the pictures and write down their names or any stories associated with those individuals. And you can either write it on a separate piece of paper, collecting more paper, or you can just simply put it on the back of the picture. And so after you identify the pictures that you want, you can put them in maybe a large Ziploc bag for store safekeeping, and you'll have the stories and the pictures and the memories. Because at the end of the day, it isn't really about the pictures, it's about the people and the emotions behind the pictures and the stories that we cherish. And you most likely, the only person who does know who's in the pictures because you own them are you. So it's your job to make the decision to either capture who's in the pictures so that others can see and know that, or to get rid of the pictures. The one thing the family does care about is the stories. And as a genealogist, I really cherish those stories that I gain from the names and the information that my father and my grandfather placed on pictures of individuals who I would have never known. So it is so important, if you're going to keep pictures, if you know who they are, identify them for your family and loved ones, because they won't know, and that will be more meaningful to them in the future. So I say keep about 100 pictures in a few gallon-sized Ziploc bags, write the stories associated with the pictures, and consider getting rid of the rest of the pictures. The main thing you should remember from this past 30 minutes is that it's about the stories, it's about the emotions, it's about the people, it's not about the stuff. So celebrate the stories and get rid of the stuff. If you remember at the start of the presentation, there was a picture of that one person that did take the stuff with them. Remember King Tut? So the photo on the left is what was found in his tomb. The photo on the right looks like somebody's garage. Kind of looks similar, right? But King Tut couldn't take his stuff with him either, and neither can we. So I know that some of you have some great ideas that you have used for downsizing and decluttering. If you want to take this moment to open the chat and put some of your ideas in the chat, we'd love to have you share those with us. We also want you to stay connected with AARP, and here are some other learning opportunities you may be interested in. You can visit our learnaarp.org to find links to other online events, our I Learned How podcast series, and AARP's Learning Library, where you'll have access to hundreds of interactive videos, online games. You can watch anytime with quizzes and all kinds of online learning. AARP also provides lots of opportunities to connect with your community and with one another without leaving your home. And we've enjoyed those during the pandemic to fight that social isolation that some of us have felt. So try virtual offerings like movie watch parties, coffee chats, and exercise classes. Visit aarp.org/nearyou. Now, Lil, has anyone put anything in chat about any ideas or any wonderful tips that they have?
Yes, touch base. There's some very interesting things going on here. And one of the things about how often when should you unpack? This one woman said, I do it right away, but my husband keeps a mess. How can we help him? I said, well, we need some therapy there. I'm sorry. I don't think Dr. Mary is a counselor, a professional counselor, but I don't think we have time for that today. But I think that many of us have that problem. We also have some information on people and shredding. Well, next week, and I'll talk about that, we'll have somebody from the county to talk about shredding opportunities, but it is wise to contact your local county government to see where these shred trucks are going to be. Before COVID, AARP used to have several events, and we always included a shred truck because we know how important that is. Oh, and Mary, they got on to you about the 100 pictures. They said 100 pictures. No, I said, and of course, pictures are my nemesis. I have 2 children and I have so many pictures. Someday, when it's really cold and dark outside, I'll get to those. But I think that it is a problem with all those pictures, you know, and like you say, it is the story that we look at. My husband once said, of course, my husband is a widower, and he said, everyone in this picture is dead but me. And like you say, sometimes you not only not know these pictures, but those people are no longer around. It's good to tell your children the stories. Someone made a statement. This person said that her husband got this this very, very Model T type truck, this very special truck. Her uncle gave it to her husband saying, I don't want for my children to fight for this when I die. Very wise, very wise. I think we really need, you know, this is a very good thing to do. Do not leave messes, I'd like to think. And don't, you know, just kind of take care of things, do the best you can in getting rid of stuff now. And there's some very good reasons for getting rid of things, and perhaps you just don't want for people to argue and to fuss, or ask them, you know, who wants what of this, and maybe tag it for further time. Someone said, well, it's really good to handle each item once. You know how we said about things. That also goes for all paper, letters that come into your house, for all the objects to get rid of it. You save time, like they said on here. Anything else? Shredding places. Let me see. There was just a lot of good information. Some people were talking about making donations and claiming them, and then some other people said, well, sometimes we can't claim the donations. Let me see. I'm looking at some more things here. Here it says, here's a question. Are there places where you can donate old bedding, rags, or pillows?
And you know what? I have kind of an answer for that, Lil. Sometimes shelters for animals accept clean items like that. I'm not sure about mattresses and things like that, but t-shirts and rags and things like that can make bedding for animals. That's one place. If it's something that you may not want to donate other places. And also going back to the pictures, just real quickly, my father took so many pictures during our lifetime, and not only of the family, but of other people's families. So after he passed, I took on this. It was a huge task, but it was so rewarding. I found relatives of people in the picture, and it took at least 2 years, but I put the pictures in envelopes, found a relative, and mailed these to these various people. And the gift that I got back from this were these wonderful notes from people who received these pictures. They were meaningful to them. And because this was when we had Polaroids where there was only one copy, I knew that these would have more meaning to those individuals than they did to me. And I didn't want to throw them away. So that's another way to kind of recycle photos that you may not know, but you might be able to identify individuals. I also want to say, I hope that you enjoyed today's presentation and the workshop, and I hope that the information, the discussion in the chat, and the resources will be of value to you. Before we leave, we welcome your feedback on our session And I appreciate if you take a few moments to complete the chat that will be the survey that will be provided in the chat.
I just add a few more things. People have asked, please share more local resources for donation. But we are going to provide that information next week on our next week's program. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that. And it says here, pictures can be digitalized easily these days also. That is another option for some people to do. I know that I have a friend who said she takes the pictures and by year saves the top 20 of that year and then gets rid of all the rest. So that's also something to do. And somebody see a picture, remember that. And we'll talk about, okay, I'm just looking at these grateful recommendations for Fairfax information. We did have a program like this in Fairfax, but we'd have to contact their local government. Check pocket. Someone put down check pockets before donating.
Great suggestion.
Yes, and it says here, animal shelters need bedding. Again, go on with what you said. And it says, question, when Dr. Clark says to avoid resellers, does she mean avoid thrift shops like Goodwill?
No, I mean, I wouldn't avoid those. Resellers are individuals, companies that take bulk items and resell them for other things. Not my area of expertise about resellers, but local donations to local organizations, I think, is a good thing. So please take advantage of those organizations that are in your area and donate to those.
Someone here says, I scan my photos in my iPad and then distribute them. Very interesting.
That's
we
a
all
great
learn.
way.
And then it says a friend's church takes out the towels, cuts them and sends them on, makes them as sanitary pads and sends them to Africa. So there's always organizations, I think, that are willing to help. It says, love this session and hope Mary K. Clark and Lil Keys joins us again. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Well, then one last thing it says here, the Buy Nothing Project has been helpful to gift items onto community members and neighbors. Easier to let go on than donating sometimes. Very good. And then we have a lot of very nice compliments here.
Well, thank you so much, Lil. We have included our contact information here in the slide, and please reach out to us with any additional questions and comments. And Lil, it has been a pleasure to share this time with you and with the audience. I appreciate all of you for listening in today. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Okay, all right. And thank you so much, Mary. On behalf of AARP Virginia, I'd like to thank you for joining us and express our gratitude to Dr. Mary K. Clark for sharing her valuable time and expertise with us this afternoon. And again, I think we all learned quite a bit from all the information you gave us today. I think that what came to mind is less is more. I heard this somewhere and it says less is more. And I think as we get older, the less stuff we have, it just encumbers our life. And so I do believe that it is good for all of us to declutter. Okay, I would like to invite our participants right now to join us for part 2 of this program to be held next Wednesday at 2 p.m. It will be of particular interest to those of you who live in Prince William County, Virginia. Next week, Scott McDonald, and I saw he was on the panel, will present the program, the Recycling Program Manager. He is the Recycling Program Manager in Prince William County, will be here to share tips for recycling and manage. And I imagine that everybody would benefit from this presentation. I know it is specific to Prince William County, but everyone is invited. You will see a link to register for this program in our chat box, and we'll include it in the follow-up email. Now, we'd love to get your feedback about today's program. Again, in the chat box, you'll see a link to a survey. Please click on the link and take a few moments to share your feedback with us. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending a follow-up email with all the resources plus more that were mentioned today. Please be sure to check our calendar of events at www.aarp.org/virtual-VA. Okay, until next time, we wish you the best in downsizing and decluttering your home. This concludes our program. Thank you all for attending. Bye-bye.